Okay, this is the news we are waking up to for Thursday, November the 14th, 2024. I'm Peter Alexievich. And uh, the first thing is last night's missiles and drone attack. So, no missiles, just a drone attack last night. And smaller than we've seen, which means this is going to be a very annoyingly loud weekend, is what I think is going to happen. 21 of 59 shot down, 38 of 59 taken out with electronic warfare, a 100% interception rate. Incredible work. But of course, this is half of what the guys are dealing with every night this week. So one would expect they're on the ball, baby, right? They're getting lots of practice at this. Incredible. Now, today we saw uh, images from the meeting yesterday of President Biden and President elect Trump, in which assurances were given that the transfer of power would, of course, be peaceful and smooth. And we saw President Biden turn over the reins of democracy to a clown car on fire, packed in with fuel oil and fertilizer, being driven over a cliff by this suicidal Donald Duck. Unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And it gets worse. Oh, it gets way worse. Because in addition to the kind of ghouls and goblins we expect to surround this traitorous piece of shit, like Stephen Miller, who's behind the whole deportation plan, he'll be rejoining the president. There is a colossal group of just the worst people you could imagine. Trump is talking about for Attorney General, a man that is currently under investigation for for sexually assaulting a minor and human trafficking, as well as some drug related charges, Matt Gaetz and Tulsi Gabbard, the two of whom have in common, he wants Tulsi Gabbard in charge of intelligence, National Intelligence Agency. Attorney General, a likely criminal, because of course that's all that Trump surrounds himself with. And Tulsi Gabbard, one of the things that these two have in common is that they are Kremlin mouthpieces. They spout Kremlin propaganda like they're paid to do it. It's outrageous. You're going to turn over our national intelligence to this person that has been bought by a foreign government. It's insane to me. And then you got Elon Musk. I didn't put up his picture, Vivek Ramaswamy. I just forgot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Vivek. I left you out of this uh, uh, gallery of fools. Anyway, Musk and Ramaswamy, a child of East Asian immigrants, who is all for getting rid of the immigrants, like with white people who have been here for 6 generations, you kind of understand how you can lose your roots and you forget that you were ever anything else. But for the son of immigrants to turn his back on this nation of immigrants is obscene. And of course, Musk himself is not even an American. He's an American citizen, which is a very different thing, frankly. Anyway, these two idiots, Ramaswamy and Musk, are going to be in charge of the new Federal Department of Efficiency. What is the job of the Federal Department of Efficiency? To gut the government. It's not a business. It's the EPA is there to protect the people so that we don't have a Flint, Michigan in every state. And they're going to gut it. They're going to gut it all. And it's obscene to watch all the progress of the last 100 years just be washed away in a tidal wave of insanity. And then you got this guy, Pete Hegseth, who, yes, we respect his service, of course. Thank you for your service, Mr. Hegsmith, Captain Hegseth. However, he has no senior command experience and he's being put in charge of the Department of Defense. Now, he said some pretty. Oh, and by the way, in his real life, he's just the weekend a host of Fox and Friends. He's not even on Fox and Friends, right? Like the people on, I can't name any of them, but the people on Fox and Friends, he's not good enough to be one of them, but we're going to make him sec deaf. And he has said some amazingly stupid things. He said that he had not washed his hands in 10 years. And that was 5 years ago. He said he let himself be videotaped throwing an axe in lower Manhattan. Manhattan, one of the most densely populated places in the nation. He's throwing an axe and he misses the target and the safety backing completely. The axe goes over the thing and it hits a kid from West Point, a drummer. If that is not the perfect analogy for what putting this idiot in charge of the greatest military in the history of the world, that he is literally going to use our own weapons to hurt our guys, I don't know what is. It's the perfect analogy for the kind of havoc somebody like this will wreak. And in this very strong field of stupid things he has said and done, these are not the worst examples. No, I have two others that reveal a naivete, either a naivete or a compromise that is so startling to anybody who is paying attention. He said the words that he does not believe that Putin's ambitions go beyond Ukraine. When we have seen Putin's invasion plans for Moldova, we have seen them for Georgia, we have seen our own military war game every year, various scenarios of Russian invasions of the Baltics because we know that those exist. So either very naive or very stupid, but as Secretary of Defense, that's what we're getting. A guy who thinks our principal enemy can be satisfied, which he cannot be. And then the other thing he said, which just, my head, I swear to God, my head spun around 360 degrees and I projectile vomited pea soup across the room when I heard him say, of course, Ukraine should be able to defend itself if they can, but we don't want them using American weapons to make Putin feel like he's on his heels. Aw, we don't want the poor dictator, murderous bastard, to feel like he's on his heels while he's committing genocide in Ukraine. Fuck you, you ignorant hillbilly cunt. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So this is how democracy dies, to thunderous applause of the maggots and YMCA, which is ironic in its own right. Now, there has been so about 4 or 5 months ago, it started happening. I started getting comments on videos that Ukraine should build its own nuclear weapons. And my response to that was, I don't think Ukraine wants nuclear weapons. Because if they did, they would have them. And, right, because this place, Ukraine was the armorer to the Soviet Union. A third of the nuclear stockpile that Russia's got today came from here. This was the third largest nuclear stockpile on Earth. I have a funny feeling if these guys wanted to build a nuke, or at least an improvised nuclear device just using fuel rods, let's say, they could certainly do it. Now, so my response to all these comments has been, If Ukraine wants nukes, they can build them. There's increasing talk that that's what Ukraine is doing. Now, we don't know that to be true, right? It could. There's lots of rumors go around a war. But if it is true, especially in light of how we are seeing the Kremlin's clear win in the United States, I mean, that's just what it is. And anybody who can't come to terms with that is not paying attention. We are watching the subversion of American democracy at the hands of a foreign adversary. Donald Trump and his coterie of freaks would never have been possible without the Kremlins in the Kremlin. Would never have been possible. So, look, I'm not interested in nuclear proliferation. I don't want to see more nukes in the world. I don't want the world to be more dangerous than it was before. But America's nuclear deterrent, America's conventional deterrents have failed to deter Russia now in Chechnya, in Georgia, in Ukraine, in Moldova, in the Baltics. We have failed to deter. We don't understand the Russians. We do not get them right. And so if the Ukrainians have decided to build nukes for themselves, I say good on you, because you can't count on us to be there for you. And we were the ones who convinced you to give the nukes up in the first place, because we said we would be here for you. Now, there are those among us who take that kind of thing very seriously. The problem is that in our own country, we've let the Russians run ramshod over us for 2 decades. And we are now so deeply infiltrated by their poison that I don't know that we are going to be able to claw ourselves out of it. We are clearly seeing the end of American leadership in the world and a turn toward a backward, introverted, isolationist kind of society. And it doesn't matter how that happened, whether it was the Republicans exploiting people's fear after 9/11, combined with Russian interference and disinformation on social media platforms. I'm sure all of those things were contributing factors. But right now, things are looking bad for the United States. Very, very bad. And what we cannot have is a world in which Russia survives with the United States as its willing slave, like Belarus. We can't have that. And so I think we should all turn to Ukraine as our last great hope for stopping it. Because Ukraine can break Russia. They know how to do it. So I say we trust them to do it. And if that includes fissionable materials, that is a decision that the Ukrainians are going to have to make. And one in which I support whatever decision they come to. And here's why I think that Ukraine can break the Russians. Along with international sanctions, they're a big part of this, don't get me wrong. Big part of it. Russia's overheated war economy, combined with what we're looking at as a landslide of bankruptcies in the private sector over the next 6 months, on top of the avalanche of them for the last 6 months. The ruble is just in free fall. I just did a piece on this last night. I didn't think I'd be coming back to it this morning, but overnight the ruble lost another full 1% of its value. And so it is, this is a 5-year chart, by the way, right? I like the long view. So if you take a look at the 5-year chart here, right, this is where we're at way over here. And it's just about at 100 to 1. Now you can see Right after the full-scale invasion, boom, it hit its absolutely highest peak. I think it was 123 to 1, something like that. The Russian central bank put in numerous currency controls and ways to artificially inflate the value of the ruble in the months following the full-scale invasion, and it worked for a while. If you look before 2022, you can see that really the ruble was trading in about the 72 to 77 range for most of the last, back to 2014. There was a dip in value back in 2014. But other than that, it's mostly been in that 70s, mid 70s range. Then the full scale invasion happens, ruble goes into free fall. Central bank is charged with doing everything they can to bring it back up. So you have a series of 9 consecutive interest rate hikes, as well as currency controls and forcing importers to not hold on to their foreign currency, things like that. And so the ruble comes back, but you can see that it's what I said a year ago when we were talking about this. You can see that peak where it peaked back up close to 100 last year. When it was at that phase, what I kept saying was that all of these monetary control policies that the central bank is implementing are like band-aids for cancer. You can do that in the short term, but the long-term impacts on the economy are devastating. And we're seeing it today. We're seeing it happen with these bankruptcies. And the CEO of Rostec, what's his name, Chemezov, he said it just in an interview yesterday in Izvestia, which is a Russian media outlet. He said companies are being consumed, all of their profits and earnings are being consumed by interest payments on loans because interest rates are so fucking high. They're literally driving private enterprise out of business. You're looking at a near-term bankruptcy potential for 26% of all Russian commercial airline carriers in the next 6 months, 8 months. You're looking at the largest automaker in Russia needing a government bailout, the largest real estate developer company in Russia facing bankruptcy without a government bailout as well. As the housing market collapses, we see private mortgage insurance sales down 52% and new home sales down 62% across the board, with new home sales being down as much as 82% in some localities. Nobody can afford this, and it's going to wreck them. It's going to wreck them. If Ukraine can hang in there long enough, if Trump doesn't sell us all out. So we'll see what happens, because certainly we are getting very mixed messages from the Trump team. Imagine your surprise. But there's no mixed messages in these economic indicators. There's no mixed messages here at all. The future for Russia is dark.